Cool. All right, guys. So we're going to dive in. Today's presentation is once again the best practices for lifting weights, but it's not going to be just lifting weights at the gym. It's also going to be lifting weights at home as well. So here are going to be the five themes that we're going to uncover in today's presentation. Number one, the use of progressive overload, doing it the right way. Number two is training based on your body type and also your lifestyle. I get asked all the time about what does that actually mean, your body type. Most of you guys know exactly what that means being a member here at Heartletics, but we're really going to dive into that specifics. The third thing we're going to go into is how to avoid plateaus, knowing when and how to mix things up also. Number four is going to be, do the right amount of cardio for fat loss. That is something that you guys know all about with like steps and how to be productive with it and the easiest way possible, right, for cardio for fat loss. But I get asked all the time, probably on YouTube and Instagram and Facebook, all about cardio, how much cardio I should be doing, the best types of cardio. So once again, just want to provide a lot of value and put it in today's presentation. And then lastly, number five, and this is a big one for Tyler, is the difference between isolation exercises and compound lifts. So when I talk to Tyler, he always heard about progressive overload because we talk about that. And he mentioned to me that he was doing just seated lateral raises. He's like, yeah, man. He's like, I was progressing. He's like, but I started to hurt my shoulder a little bit when I started using like 35 pounds. And in my head, I'm thinking like 35 pounds for seated lateral raises? Like, dude, that's a lot of weight. I don't even use 35 pounds. Like I play it safe, right? Because with the shoulders, that's a more of an isolation type of muscle group rather than a compound, right? So I think it's really good to just talk about that in today's presentation, cover that. So that way, once again, nobody gets injured because there could be some confusion there when it comes to progressive overload. And then also knowing in terms of, what exercises you should be actually focusing on lifting heavy with rather than risking it for the biscuit and potentially getting an injury. So what is progressive overload? Progressive overload means you're just doing a little bit more over time, right? So that way your muscles keep on growing. Your body's always going to adapt. It's the same thing with any form of nutrition or diet that you're doing as well. The definition of insanity is doing the same things over and over again, expecting different results. So if you're eating the same calories and macros, you're doing the same diet, whatever it is that you want to call it, sure, you're going to see results in the very beginning. It's different. It's that confusion. But eventually your body's going to hit a stall or a plateau. It's the same thing when it comes also to the training as well. If you're constantly doing the same workouts, the same weights, the same exercises, you're going to stop seeing results, plain and simple. So it's about knowing how can we progress? How can we make small little changes? That way we're constantly seeing results. So here are a few ways on how to apply progressive overload. And these by far are probably the best six in my opinion. I'm sure there's some more out there like, drop sets, supersets, different things like that. But in my opinion, these are the top six. All right. The first one is you're doing more weight. You're adding in just, if let's say you go from doing a dumbbell flat bench press with using 50 pounds. And let's just say you're constantly banging out more reps. Sure enough, over time, you need to progress that weight and maybe do 60 pounds, maybe do 70 pounds, right? Or maybe it's not going up by, increments of 10 pounds. Maybe it's only going up by 5, and that's a-okay. But as long as you're lifting more weight over time, you're progressing. That's by far the best way to focus on the progressive overload. Second is doing more reps because at a certain threshold, you're not going to be able to progress with more weight. If let's just say you start bench pressing at 16 years old and every single week you try to add 10 pounds onto your bench, it's not like you're going to get to your 40s and your 50s and, bench pressing 1,000 pounds just because you started off in your teens. It doesn't work that way. Eventually there's going to be a certain threshold where you can't lift any more weight. And at that time, then it's a-okay to just say, okay, let's focus on more volume in the form of doing more reps. Or you can also do more sets as well. Both, it really doesn't matter. It's just whatever you feel more comfortable doing in terms of that progression. Number four is shorter rest time. So if you think about it, if let's just say that, you want to create tension, you want to create stress on the muscle. If you're resting 60 seconds, 90 seconds, 2 minutes, whatever the case may be in between each set, your job is once again should be focusing on more stress, more tension on the muscles, obviously, with best practices, safety and whatnot. But if you feel like, okay, hey, instead of me resting 60 seconds, I'm only going to rest 30 seconds. I still have enough energy to bang out another set. It's perfectly fine to do that. And that can help you out with the progressive overload. Number five, which is huge, is try to focus on improving the form and control. So going back to the bench press analogy, if let's say somebody's benching 300 pounds, and only at 200 pounds, hey, they're in control, great form on the bench, you're lifting up the weight perfectly. But when they jump the gun to 300 pounds, it's so much weight that now form goes out the door, and maybe obviously that's going to cause an injury down the road, but maybe you're just going through the motions, right? Trying to bench that weight off your chest as fast as possible. At a certain threshold, once again, it's smart to say, hey, why don't we focus on more form and control? And that's also going to focus on, once again, activating more muscles properly because you're not going to be using momentum or your joints or anything like that. And you can progress that muscle as well. And then lastly, just going at a slower tempo, doing like, really focusing on control with that and not rushing it so much as I mentioned. Now let's talk about one of the things that I get asked a lot, which is how do you train for your body type? So whenever you go to Google, check GBT, YouTube, anything like that, you'll typically hear about the three different body types: ectomorph, endomorph, or a mesomorph. Um, I don't consider that the body type when it comes to training for somebody to progress on their health and fitness journey. What I mean specifically is like looking at the bigger picture here, any kind of past or injuries, current, anything like that, or limitations that somebody just can't do. You guys know my story, but I hurt my back, man, three times now deadlifting. Just once again, ego lifting, risking it for the biscuit, lifting way too heavy. Personally, there's certain exercises that I can't do. I know my body type right now. I'm slowly getting into deadlifts again, doing more less weights, slow and control, really focusing on the form. But like barbell back squats, I cannot do. Even just doing the weight of just the barbell, which is 45 pounds on an Olympic bar, hurts my back you know? Now, I could let the bad wolf win that battle all day long because now it's going to go a little bit into the mindset piece with all this, where I can go to Google, I can go to ChatGPT or YouTube, I could see my favorite fitness influencer and they're talking about barbell back squats and how that's the best exercise to do. And I know that, hey, if I try to do that, I'm just going to injure myself, right? And then I'm not going to be able to work out. So that could actually discourage me. That could actually stop me from progressing on my health and fitness journey. So that's why I mean your body type, right? Means, okay, hey, if you have any kind of past or current injuries, any kind of limitations, even preferences and all that stuff that we're going to get into here in a little bit, go off of that because everybody's different, and what matters the most, and you guys will hear this at the very end, is just consistency. So it's like, yes, the squats, it might be the best exercise, right? You're boosting out more HGH, you're banging out, more muscles in your legs. It's going to help you, boost more testosterone. Listen, that's great. But if somebody's going to be able to do that and injure themselves and then they can't work out, that's actually going to be more of a negative rather than a positive thing. And then also go off your preferences. Another thing that I've also mentioned before is I hate full body workouts, like lifting weights with full body. Just I don't get the most bang for my buck. I feel like I'm never really getting a pump when it comes to training my biceps or any muscle group in particular when it comes to doing a full body workout routine. And listen, that's okay. Somebody else might do a full body workout and might see amazing results. And that's why it's, once again, you just have to go with a grain of salt. What is going to work the best for you? Jeff Koons, we were just talking about, with you, your body type and the DOMs and everything like that. You always have to break it down in terms of like, what is just going to help you for that current day ahead, And if you guys keep that mindset, I promise you, you're going to have so much success, not only on your health and fitness journey, but in other areas of your life as well, right? Just take it day by day. Now let's go around training around injuries because it's one of these things. It's probably going to happen. The reality is, I don't wish it upon anybody, but I just know that, hey, us as guys, we like to lift weights and sometimes we like to go hard in the paint. John, you mentioned about, hey, is it okay if I do another extra 100 push-ups and another extra, 100 dips today? And once again, that might be the right time, the right answer, the right thing, or you might get injured just overdoing it, and that's okay if it happens too. It's about knowing how to train around those injuries and having the right mindset about how to roll through the punches. So if let's say you do ever have an injury, right? Shoulders, knees, back, anything like that, don't ignore it. Don't try to push through it. Once again, that's going to be just risking it for the biscuit, making things worse. Focus on something you can do instead. That's not going to cause any kind of pain, discomforts, anything like that. And so, for example, once again, with like the deadlifts, maybe if somebody can't deadlift, maybe they can find something else to do that's also going to train that muscle group. So how to train your hamstrings, that might be Romanian deadlifts, just a little bit different, slight variation. It might be more back extensions. It might be more hip thrusts, different things like that, you know? And if it comes to a certain point where most of you guys, if you do overcome or do happen to get an injury, where like, hey, I just can't work out today. Like maybe it's a sprained ankle, you can't make it to the gym, or a really bad shoulder injury, a really bad back injury, and you can't work around it in terms of doing a different exercise. Don't let that also defeat you. Don't let like, the bad wolf also take over your mindset and say, hey, today's a bad day and you're going to let your diet go down the drain or your mindset or anything like that. Find ways to still win that victory within. And once again, that could be just focusing more time and energy into the nutrition. And let's face it, that's 80 to 90% of the results anyways. Or it could be focusing and dialing more to the mindset piece of things. And maybe that is just, if you can't go to the gym, how do we utilize that time instead? And maybe that might be meditation, maybe that might be prayer, gratitude journaling, something that's just going to help you progress and be better in terms of everything, right? And that means how can you show up and be better each and every day? Just 1% better than who you were yesterday. Whether that's physically, mentally, emotionally, or spiritually, that's the name of the game. That's how we win at this, okay? I recently made a podcast about this, literally diving all into this. And if there's one thing that I want to just really hit the nail on the head with you guys, it's this right here, okay? If there's something that you don't like to do or something that you hate to do, don't do it. Plain and simple. I know so many people, and you guys know this as well, and this might have been you on your health and fitness journey before Heartletics, before getting signed up, but New Year's rolls around, and it's just like, hey, you smash during Thanksgiving, you smash during Christmas, you smash during the New Year's, and you don't feel the best, you don't look the best. And so, what do most people do? They give themselves these New Year's resolution goals of, okay, hey, I'm going to sign up for a gym membership and I'm going to work out 6 days a week. And I'm going to commit to doing all this cardio and I'm going to commit to sticking with no carbohydrates and no alcohol. And like they feel really good, right? There's something that's going around, right? That vibe, that energy, especially if you go to the gym during the New Year's. It's like everybody's on the same path, right? Everybody's on the same mission. You're like, all right, I got this. But why is it that typically by March, like the gym's not packed anymore? It's because life's going to throw you curveballs. And anytime life throws you curveballs, if you're doing something that you hate to do, right? Maybe it's full body workouts, maybe it's cutting out your carbohydrates, or whatever the case may be. When life throws you stress, do you really think you're going to continue doing something that's actually going to add in more stress because you hate doing it? Of course not, right? And that's why New Year's always, the resolutions always fail for most people. You got to find what you enjoy doing. And you got to remember, everybody's body type is different. Everybody's schedule is different. Everybody's lifestyle is different. So don't put all your eggs into one basket saying, hey, this is the best workout program. I need to stick with this. Or this is the best diet. I need to stick with this. Or this is the best routine. I need to stick with this. You just, once again, got to take it day by day and just focus on, hey, what can I do today that I enjoy doing, right? Because I'm going to be able to be consistent with that, even when life throws me curveballs. And it's also going to help me progress over time, because consistency, that's what beats perfection every single time. All right. So, what to do when you hit a plateau? Understand this. Everybody hits a stall, everybody hits a plateau. And this is why it's so important to understand and you guys gain all the right tools, the knowledge, right? The understanding of how to roll with the punches, how to navigate through this, and not to throw in the towel and quit and get discouraged. Because once again, this is where these expectations that we give ourselves that, hey, I'm going to stick to this workout program or I'm going to stick to this diet or this routine and I'm going to, lose the next 30 pounds. And maybe the first week you lost 3 pounds. Well, hey, that's great, right? You decided to do all the workouts, you hit your macros. That first week, obviously, you saw success, you lost 3 pounds, but fat loss isn't linear. And that's something I teach you guys a lot. In fact, all the time, right? Because you never want to go off just the number on the scale. So it's like, let's say you do all the same workouts, same macros the second week, but maybe you don't lose any weight because once again, fat loss isn't linear. Or maybe you only lost a pound, or shoot, maybe you even gained a pound. Instead of getting discouraged and just throwing the towel and quitting and listening to the bad wolf, it's ideal to know, right? How do we navigate through these plateaus? So whenever you focus on hitting a stall, just ask yourself, what changes can I make? That's it. Instead of getting so discouraged and everything like that, and a true plateau, just so everybody knows, this is not just one week of not seeing the best results. This is typically after like, 4 to 5, maybe 6, weeks after weeks, where you're constantly seeing the same sauna dance, the same results. Nothing's changing with the number on the scale. Nothing's changing with your body fat or your measurements. Nothing's changing with your progress photos. But if let's say you're getting stronger in the gym, you're lifting heavier weights, you're not hitting a plateau. You're progressing. You're putting on more muscle. Muscle weighs more than body fat. So we got to keep in mind of those things. But at the same time, if you do hit a true stall, focus on small little tweaks, small little adjustments. That might be adjustments for the training, that might be adjustments for the calories and macros, something so small. So that way we can continue on the trends of progression. Let's dive into cardio and fat loss. This is something that I get asked probably the most on my Instagram, which is what is the best form of cardio? And I figured, hey, once again, add this into today's presentation, provide some value, and just help everybody understand. So there's three different forms of cardio. There's the list, the miss, the hit. There's low intensity steady state, right? So walking. There's the miss, which is the moderate intensity steady state. So jogging, being on the stair climber, biking, running, swimming, anything like that. And then the high intensity. So that is your sprints, that's your burpees, that is anything that's an explosive movement. As far as like what is the best thing that you could do, it's honestly goes back to the working out part, whichever one that you could stick with long term. The turtle is what wins the race at the end of the day, not the hare. So the cardio, it needs to be a preference. Most of the time, I teach you guys this, and want you guys to understand this, is that walking is very sustainable, and that's why I'm a big fan of it. And we're going to go over that here in the next slide. But when it comes to walking, think about it like this. Okay. In fact, let me click on the next slide so that way you guys can actually see the big difference between walking and running. Okay. Walking is one of the best tools for fat loss, and here's why. One, it's easier on your joints. All right. Myself, you guys, everybody, day by day, week over week, year over year, we're getting older, right? We're aging in life, and our body is not as, sharp and as, mobile and, injury prone as compared to it was when we're in our, 20s and our teens and whatnot. So we need to understand that. Now, granted, running, yeah, you're going to be able to burn more calories, but at the same time, if you're going to be injuring yourself or you can't recover, because of the DOMS, right? The delayed onset muscle soreness, and you can't follow through that next day with being consistent. Once again, you're going to be doing more harm than good. So, walking is good because one, it's safe for your joints. Two, it keeps your heart rate in a fat burning zone. I don't discuss this a lot, because, there is some truth to it and there's also some myths to it. But at the same time, when you're using enough energy, you're going to be using more glycogen. Glycogen gets stored within your muscles from carbohydrates. It's a fuel source. So if you're able to keep your heart rate nice and low, you're primarily using fat as fuel. And then lastly, and this is what's most important, is you can do it daily and recover fast. Once again, somebody sure can do burpees, backflips, sprints, the whole 9 yards. But if they feel beat up the next day and they can't progress, it's going back to that turtle versus the hare analogy. And you guys got to remind yourself that constantly. Your compound exercises, this works multiple muscle groups, all right? Multiple muscles at the same time. So think in terms of squats, bench, pull-ups, deadlifts. It builds strength, right? Burns more calories overall. And a good sets to reps ratio is anywhere from 3 to 5 sets. And about 6 to 10 reps, is a good rep range, in my opinion, for strength and hypertrophy. Isolation exercises, this is once again, it's just one muscle group at a time. So think in terms of like bicep curls, triceps, leg extensions, lateral raises. Once again, these are things that it's okay to focus on the progressive overload, but at the same time, you don't want to be, 35 pounds, 50 pounds, 60 pounds doing dumbbell lateral raises. You could potentially be hurting yourself, okay, which isn't good. So with the isolation exercises, these also help with shape and defining the muscles. And as far as sets and reps ratio goes, 2 to 4 sets and 10 to 15 reps. This is a mixture of once again hypertrophy, but also a little bit of the endurance as well. Recovery is part of the training. So this is once again big parts of the mindset in all of this is that muscle grows during rest, not the workout. I know we think as guys like, hey, we're going to go to the gym, we're going to lift all this heavier weight. We feel the pump, right? Doing the bicep curls. We feel it. We feel strong right there. But the reality is we're breaking down the muscles. And during the rest, that's when it actually grows. So just some things to keep in mind, right? This is going to sound, redundant for most of you guys that's been on the program, but good for anybody else to kind of listen to is one, focus on the sleep. right? That is where, once again, your body's growing and developing, especially the muscles. So 7 to 9 hours of sleep, drink plenty of water, eat plenty of protein. So bare minimum 0.8 grams per pound of body weight, all the way up to 1.5 grams per pound of body weight. And then also take rest days when your body needs them. Always listen to your body, okay? Um, Once again, if you risk it for the biscuit, you're overdoing it. You're going to be spiking your cortisol levels. Hormonally, it's going to be causing the fat loss process of lipolysis to stop. It's going to be very difficult. And that's why it's always important to listen to your body. Mindset and consistency. So results don't happen overnight. Stay consistent, stay patient, and remember, discipline builds the body, but the mindset, that's what keeps it strong. And then lastly, for the final thoughts, train smart, not hard. Focus on progression, not perfection. And then also enjoy the process. It's all about becoming the person right on the journey. It's not about the end destination, but it's about who you're becoming through that process and who you're growing into becoming that person through your journey of reaching your goals. And then lastly, just keep showing up and the results will take care of themselves. Don't try to put these expectations that's out there because that's typically when the bad wolf kind of, barks nice and loud and discourages us from ever seeing the results that we want.